some new stuff on the horizon. Mario Kart World just came out. Let's talk about some tournaments for it. I know it's more of a casual game, most popular game on the Switch with 8 Deluxe. Usually it's a party game, but hey, I'm all about tournaments or party games. Here we are. Let's get into it. Now, Mario Kart has been a competitive game in some way for a long time. Between speedrunning, time trials, competitive, it has been one of the staples of people trying to compete in it in some way. Even if it's just with a group of friends, you try and win the race. That's how it goes. It's a very accessible game. You can have multiple people on the same console. You can pick it up. New additions to the game have made it easier than ever with steering assist, auto acceleration, stuff like that. It's a very accessible game, but that there is a skill ceiling and people try and go for it. Now, let's talk about some different formats for how some tournaments can look. Now, like I mentioned earlier, single player is very common with time trials, where you try and complete a race. Usually you have three mushrooms that you have to manage to try and go as fast as possible. It can be either 1 lap, it can be 3 laps, or however many there are, and there can be to go as fast as possible to get a certain time. You can also speed run like first races and stuff. That's not as common, even though I think it kind of like set seed versus random seed from Minecraft. It's very consistent. There's no other racers. It's just trying to improve your lines, use the mushrooms as best as possible, stuff like that. While for the randomness of speedrunning the verse races has a lot more volatility, and sometimes randomness can be exciting, sometimes it can be frustrating. I think usually people do the time trials, but you can do either one. One thing that I saw on a recent Something Salt video was about Mario Kart DS, where instead of just going by like having a bunch of individual world records, they had an overall champion across all of the records. There were 32 races along with the single lap versions of all of those races. So there were 64 potential records to have, and how you rank determined your placement, and that can help you with becoming a champion. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if that's going to necessarily happen. That was kind of a lightning in a bottle type thing. But speedrunning's fun. Sometimes people don't really necessarily care about the person-to-person playing. They want to improve their own skill in the race with minimizing other humans involved. Yeah, go for it. You can also speed run like larger parts of the game, like getting all 3 stars for every cup, unlocking all the characters and items and whatever. You can do that. That's more of like a one-time video type thing as opposed to like an ongoing competition. But there's a lot of options there. Now let's get into multiplayer. Very common. Most people are going to play in this method against other people. Now, usually the Grand Prix is going to have point values based on your placing for each race. I think this is usually what people prefer. I think there's a lot of value to it. Now, sometimes I think it's a little bit skewed. As you can see, I put the point values that I found for Mario Kart World, the current for 24 racers. It is very top heavy, which is fine. It's good to win. It doesn't seem bottom heavy enough. It seems like there's a lot of kind of mid. Only one person getting 1 point. I don't know if I fully agree with that, but hey, gives people an opportunity to try and catch up. I do think it gives a ton of benefit to first place. You can get first and fifth, and then 2 seconds and get the same amount of points with 24. So first is so valuable, which it should be. You get the worst item, luck, and you win the race. Like, I get why that's the most points. I think it could be tweaked a little bit, but I'm honestly fine with it. I think that if you scaled it all the way from like 24 points to 1 point, and one each, then that wouldn't give enough reward for getting first. But I think anything we can be tweaked and experimented with a little bit. I think this is gonna be fine. I think generally it's good. I saw people arguing that the difference between certain placings isn't going to matter as much. If you're 15th, do you care that you're not 13th? I mean, I guess starting for the next race, maybe, but yeah, like it's not that important. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. But you could have 24 players in your lobby in the same race, which is really cool. It used to be 12, and that was I guess that was since the Wii. All the handheld ones and older consoles had 8, but some of the other ones had 12. 24 is a lot. That's a chaotic race. Um, Now, the more people you have, the more there is randomness, the more variables in the race. So you could do less than 24. You could still do 12 or 8, or you could go down to 4 or 2. Like, there's a lot of options you have. If you'd rather have who is the better driver as opposed to who is the best at adapting, and sometimes who's the luckiest, you could limit that. Also, expensive consoles. Switch 2s are pretty expensive. So if you don't have that much, you can tweak that. You can do a lot of multiple things. I'll kind of get into the specifics of it in a little bit, but multiplayer with like you can either do it online or you can do it in person. You have a lot of opportunities here. If it's free for all, where each person is trying to win on their own, there's some exciting stuff there. You can have a lot of different stream perspectives. You can have it's like a normal race at that point where you can switch to like NASCAR or F1, anything like that. You can focus on one racer at any given point. There's a lot of cool stuff there. Now you can do teams, which is less popular, but actually has a pretty deep meta to it. I remember seeing the World Cup from Mario Kart Wii. Aiden Calvin from the Yard. He got Ludwig to stream it on his channel, and I saw it, and it was kind of a hard watch. Like, it's hard to keep up with. It's really fast paced, but it was cool. I think that the strategy was really interesting. I said at the bottom here, they usually had a bagger, which means they had someone at the back trying to get items, usually trying to get the lightning, because if team attack is off, then you can shock everyone on the other team. If it's on, you can still use communication to decide when's the best time to do that. I think it's hard to keep up with as a spectator, but as a as an individual on a team, I bet that it is really exciting, and there's options for that. I think that single player, or not single player, individual multiplayer, I think is probably going to be the default for this. But I think teams is cool, and you can do a large amount of combinations with uh, what am I saying? Battle Royale games. Uh, what am I saying? I lost the name. But the free for all type of games, you can still have teams in them. Um, and I think it's cool that, you could do 3 teams of 8, 4 teams of 6. You could do 2 teams of 12 or 12 teams of 2. Like, you can mix and match so much. And the bigger the teams are, the harder it is. It's going to be communication. It's probably just going to be a jumbled mess. Sometimes you just have people, hey, we're driving on our own and we happen to be on the same team. But teams is a good option. Again, I think that individual is probably going to be the default. But hey, there's other stuff as well. Um, Now you have a new in-game mode uh, called the Knockout Tour. This is it reminds me of musical chairs. That's um, kind of the basic part of that, but it's based off a lot of other things like Trackmania. reminds me of the home run derby a little bit for baseball. Other stuff like that where you have a layer of eliminations, and I think it's also built into the game. I think there's a pretty good case for it being one of the most popular modes. It's from what I've seen, it's about a 10-minute combined race instead of having individual races. I could see people wanting to play that a ton. It's difficult. It's not very forgiving. Um, Consistency is valued. Like it's less good to be first than it is bad to be not like you could still lose even if you get first, and then lose the last one. Like that consistency is not really rewarded. Yeah, you get to be in front, but you don't have the item luck. Sometimes I can imagine it being better to being one of the last few to advance. Um, and so I can imagine it being like, you know what? I'd rather be in second or third here and be close so I can get an item. Now, sometimes the items are based off a distance and not placing. I'm not quite sure how I'll have to double check for that. But I think that is a good mode. I can see this being like the ranked esque mode. I'm sure there's other like I looked at some stuff and there's not really an elo system entirely. It's more of a casual version of elo where it's like okay you're rewarded with points for doing well, but it's more like a ongoing thing rather than like a competitive ladder. There's external ones that I'm sure you could do, but most people do the client that's in the game. You can't really expect another layer of friction for people to go to like a computer or anything online and stuff like that. Um, so so yeah, I think this is really cool, and you can have the same people in the same lobby, but that's really fast. I feel like having a lot of races is pretty good. And then you can do it in a random lobby, and like this especially, um, like I was saying earlier about like the ranked. I think like just going on and just playing over and over against random people, I can see that being addicting. Where like Moki's 100 win on Slippy, people going and like fighting games, or even like Fortnite. That's probably the closest thing where you try and do these random things, random challenges, whatever. A little bit more streamlined because there's less customization compared to 100 people where you can have a team of up to four. Usually, for this, it's just going to be independent. But it's a casual, competitive way of playing the game. I think that's really cool. I think that's going to have a lot of people playing it a lot. And Nintendo's version of a online competitive mode, it's still pretty casual, but you best believe there's going to be a lot of hardcore people at least trying it out. I can imagine things outside of the game are going to be factored in a lot for what is the tournaments, but in a casual competitive setting, which is what video games thrive on, and also like any kind of game at all. You're not going to have people going professional as much as you have people that are going to play it with their friends and want to win. Like that is getting the casual competitive part is going to be very, very, very important. So them getting this, I think, is genius. I don't think it's going to be factored in that heavily, but it's it's another thing you can have a part of that. I think it's cool. So yeah. Another thing that I have is some novelty events. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do. I think that battle mode with like the balloons and stuff is pretty popular. I mean, I played that a ton. It's fun. Um, it kind of loses its luster after a bit. Like you only play it a few times. Usually you don't play it for hours and hours like you do normal races, but it's possible. Um, the main way of doing this is usually uh, Beerio carts. One of the while I don't necessarily partake, I'm not a drinker. It is cool to have like this out of game task that has to be completed. Um, the whole drinking and driving joke, and oh, like over time you start to get less able to drive as well, and oh, it's a legal way of drinking, and like that joke gets overplayed. Personally, I think it's a bit much. But it's a social thing. It's done in like kind of like a frat college environment. Trying to use a party game in a way in a more mature setting, I guess. You know, more power to you. Ludwig has a Biru Kart event coming up where he has 24 people and all that. I think it's gonna be cool. I'll definitely watch it. The last one. I forget what version they did, but it had like Doug and Ludwig and I think Mango, and it was really funny. A lot of I think Mario Kart is a great way of bringing people like collaboration. I saw a lot of streamers playing together the other day, um, and it's cool. I think that these social novelty type things can kind of it's like okay, it doesn't just matter if you're good at the game or not. There's other things in it. It's funny. There's other things in the game like coin runners. I don't think that's very popular. There's a few other modes in older versions. I'm not quite sure exactly for World or if people want to go back to other games, but there's things you can do. There's a lot of things in the game. You can do speed running, other things. I remember like the DS story mode and all the challenges and stuff. I don't know if it was the story mode per se, but it was like different challenges to do. There's other speedrunning things that you can assign. There's stuff outside of the game, just like a task. It's more like a barrier, not barrier of entry, more like a another thing that is making it harder to complete the challenge. It's I guess a artificial um, like difficulty or whatever. Sharing controllers. These are some of the things that you see at like invitationals for like Smash. And share controller. You could do a relay race where you have to trade the controller every lap or something. You could do blindfolded. Either you figure it out yourself or you're like someone is calling and like directing and stuff. I think that could be fun doing that, but there's a lot of things you can do in Mario Kart. I think that while I really enjoy tournaments in a Smash setting, I have a much more casual view of Mario Kart. So it doesn't have to be the most competitive thing. Like even in the casual competitive with like Knockout Tour or whatever, you can still do other things like that. I think that uh, hold on a second. So I think there's a lot of stuff that is valuable that people can use from this game to have some kind of competition. A lot of content, a lot of events can be done through this game. It's important to think about logistics though. As a tournament organizer myself, tournaments don't happen out of thin air. Now, players per console, that is stressful. It's pretty simple in Smash. You just have one game per console, figure it out. Other Nintendo games like Splatoon, you have to have multiple consoles, and it's difficult to have those teams. Not Smash. Mario Kart is kind of in a gray area. Like you could do four per console, you could do one per console, you could do two. It has decent physical vertical visibility, but not as much horizontal, so that might inhibit people's ability to be as aware on the course. There's no really point in doing three because four is the same size. You have those boxes. You can't have three really. So four is okay. Um, I think that's like people are usually as long as the screen is big enough. Four is fine, but the split screen starts to get a little bit tricky. So if tournaments have the capacity to have one per console, yeah. But again, expensive. One per console means 24 $500 console. Um, Not per person, I guess. Per match, whatever. Per match. That's pricey. And then you also need monitors. You have to have controllers managed. That can be a lot of also I don't think I mentioned it here, but like the time it takes to like troubleshoot, make sure everyone's in. Like I remember Multiverses, they had some issues with connecting all these different controllers. Usually the controller setting up took longer than the actual game. Like it is difficult to manage all that kind of stuff. And so the logistics are going to be difficult. Not only the players per console, also the tournament structure. How's that going to be? It's difficult to show how a tournament is set up. I'm thinking I use StartGG for pretty much anything. Also Challenge if you need something really quick. But those bracket websites are really, really useful. It's hard to do that for Mario Kart. You could do a round robin, but I mean, you'd have to have a 24-person pool and input every single like, oh, if someone gets first, they beat all the other 23. If someone gets, 10th, they beat the 14 below them, and that's pretty tedious. And you have to organize those pools. What if there's not uh, what if there's an odd number? Like, do you round up to 24, and then if you have 8 people, or do you do 16 and 16? Do you have a bunch of 22-person? Like it's difficult to figure out. How many races should you do? I remember seeing I think it was a British Smash tournament. Um, Fate, I think. They had a Mario Kart Wii event, and they had a 12-person LAN. I think they had 10 or 12 races. It might have been each person chooses once or something like that. I think that's cool. A lot of races. Some of these races are over in like 2 minutes. So having a lot of them when you have so many people in each thing, like yeah, a set for in Smash can take anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes. Usually it's like 10. Um, in a cup, a Grand Prix, a four race combination of some kind, that can be done in 10 or 15. And if you have 4 people, you get rid of 2 of them. Like that's kind of tough. Like okay, too bad, so sad, you're out. Like that's pretty fast. You want to give people value for what they sign up for, especially if it's an open tournament. But there's a lot of ability to kind of adjust. Sometimes that can be kind of a curse in disguise, um, to where there's so many options to do that none of them holds that much weight. So having one system of going about it, I mean, it's going to be up to the community because I don't think Nintendo is going to be super involved with tournaments like this. And honestly, probably for the best, Nintendo is not very nice with the tournaments and stuff. But um, I like more races. I don't mind having more people in each race, but then you're gonna have to set up multiple consoles guaranteed. I think it's easiest if you just have 4 people. They figure it out on that one console, and then you move on from that. It's not as exciting when you have up to 24, but I understand if you're doing a open bracket, that's probably what you're going to want. But you also have to be careful with seeding because if you have 3 really good players in the same group of 4 or even 4, and let's say you have 2 of them move on or 1 of them move on or something, like it's difficult. I think that there should be some kind of like double elimination type thing to where you can earn your way back, at least give the chance of doing better. It's hard to know for sure. I think that logistically it's easiest if you do only 4 per match, but I understand wanting to do more. Like it's fun to be a part of such a large group. You can do a 12 race thing with 24 players, see how it goes. There's a lot of options. Thing is, a large open event, like from what I've seen from Mario Kart, like I saw like a 16-man Vegas tournament, and that's cool. But like doing anything to the scale of like thousands of people, that sounds really hard. I do not envy any Mario Kart TO out there trying to run this. It's expensive to get a hold of that, and you might have like gaming generations, which it's probably hard to get switched to nowadays. So it might take a little bit. Might need some grassroots working together and stuff. But again, like the setting up, either doing the points by hand or like taking a screenshot after the race and figuring out who moves on where and who plays next, or having a very tedious round robin format, it's hard. I think that's going to be difficult, and so I can see why invitationals or at least smaller events are going to be very popular. Or you just stay online from the comfort of your home, do whatever. Like I could see an online Mario Kart event being better to run. Like let's say you do it over the course of a week, where you have like you have one or two matches a night or something. Gives time to set it up for the next night. I could see that being pretty cool. That would be difficult though, and it you internet connection can be difficult with doing it online. Um, I think that there's a decent bandwidth compared to like input delay is not going to be too bad compared to other stuff, but you never know. I mean, one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. If someone's running on a toaster uh, internet or whatever, like that can potentially harm the the event in terms of how well it's going about. So it's tough. But hey, I can see either open bracket or invitational, all these kinds of stuff. I can see it being really, really fun. So, uh, either way, get involved. Personally, I haven't gotten that involved in Mario Kart tournaments. I've spectated a few, I've played the games a ton, but it's exciting to compete in anything. Putting yourself out there is a risk. Sometimes you lose, you get bodied, and it's discouraging. But you can always get back up and try again. Mario Kart Central has been a really cool resource for me. There's a lot of content out there. StartDG has a lot of brackets. Sometimes they don't finish the bracket. It's more of like a sign up page, and then they do the bracket somewhere else. But hey, it's good to at least check. I mean, I saw on StartDG earlier. There's already 6 pages of Mario Kart World, and it came out this week. Like there's a lot of events already popping up, and so check it out. There's also information on different Reddit subreddits. You get certain discords and stuff. There's a lot of. It's kind of hard because sometimes it's kind of hidden, but once you find it, sometimes you need like Twitter or Reddit to find the Discord or whatever. But there's a lot of people that give good information. Uh, so if you're curious, get involved. I think Mario Kart World looks really, really exciting, and I want to keep up with it. I've already seen a little bit of stuff with streamers playing each other and like video game YouTube players like showing different tricks on also on Twitter, like these crazy different rail combos or whatever you want to call them. I think it's going to be cool. So yeah, I want to follow along more with Mario Kart World Esports and maybe even get some older games as well. I encourage you to do the same. It's fun stuff, esports.